live at Onigashima. I'm Anthony.
And I'm Jimmy, and this is chapter 1096, Kumachi. And just to point it out really quick, Zoro might go on the cover story or on the cover art.
One.
It's random, but I gotta point out the goat. But we can get right
There
into
he
the
is.
chapter.
Yeah. So straight into the God Valley flashback still, and it's not turned out not to be like strictly God Valley flashback, and we knew this. Like, it's Kuma's flashback, so we see more of just like Kuma specific backstory, but we got a lot of big reveals this chapter.
Yeah, I was hoping for a little bit more from God Valley, but like you said, this is a Kuma flashback. But some of the things that I did see that were really cool. One, just gotta point out how much of like assholes the Celestial Dragons are again, just literally putting point systems on this. I like that Oda's now emphasizing, like he's going back and like in Saba Odi he showed us, yeah, these are like horrible people, and now we're being reminded like why we should hate these people for the end game, and I really like that he's reminding us of that.
And he brought in some familiar faces right in the beginning, right? So like, you know, there are some Easter eggs throughout this whole chapter, but some of the Celestial Dragons that are a part of this were like kids that were under Mother Caramel's care, right? Like,
So
they have
I wanted to talk about that actually,
yeah.
because like I've been seeing that pointed out, and I think it's really cool, and it definitely like seems to be the case. But that means that we all assumed Big Mom ate everybody there. Like, we can safely assume she ate Mother Caramel because she has the devil fruit, but we don't necessarily know that anymore. Like, if these kids are alive, like, what happened to her? Did she get away and then die to something else, and then Big Mom ate the fruit? Like,
I think she ate her. I like the idea that she ate her.
I think
But
she ate her
all
too,
the other
but then
kids, like,
how did the other kids get away? Where did they go to?
They probably, I mean, she like blacked out when that happened, so like.
But then how did they still get sold to the government? Like, I just have so many questions about it. Because Mother Caramel was the connection to the world government.
Right. Maybe they fled to the
Although
government
I
or
think
something.
she did
Or maybe it
call
has to
somebody
do with
in.
the giants. Weren't the giants on that island too?
They were, but why would they help the world government with anything?
I don't know. Maybe there's
They
like
were on
a
Elba.
misconstrued thing. I don't know. This could be like a minor segue into some deeper stuff in Elbaf, but
I think there's some hidden stuff in this that Oda's setting up for later.
For sure. And we're already getting into the nitty gritty of it. We get to see Kong for like the first time fucking in forever.
Yeah, young Kong.
Actually, he's doing something. Young Garp, of course. Garp is
I
here.
love that reaction.
Everybody
from Garp.
is
He's like,
here.
haha, look at these idiots dying. And he's like, wait, Roger, I'm out there.
Yeah, he's
Say
like,
less.
I'm coming. Yeah, and then obviously, we get the Rocks Pirates here. Finally, we see Shiki for the first time on panel. Like, actual, you know, we didn't get like an introduction panel for him or anything, but he's there. He's got lines. He's screaming at Whitebeard.
I love seeing this, just seeing all of them. We see I forgot her name, but the one from Amazon Lily, the old lady.
Gloriosa.
Yeah.
Crazy
then we get to
reveal
see
that
all
she's
the
on the
people
Rocks Pirates.
that they mentioned last time: Silver Axe, Captain John, and Wang Ji. And the cool thing is, I don't know if you've seen it, but they're the same corpses that we see on Thriller Bark. Like, we knew about it with Captain John because he stated it, but now we can see it was all three of them. So they were clearly targeted by Moria. Like, now that he has Oars, Ryuma, like, his plan doesn't actually seem as bad as what I thought back then.
I want to know way more about Moria, and that also poses the question. So Moria went to Hachinosu recently. He had to have known how to get there, obviously. So he's probably been there before, and you know, it makes me think, like, who else right now is on Hachinosu? Like, what are other backstories? Like,
what other corpses are there, right? Like,
right. I mean,
is Rox himself going to be there now? Like, who knows?
Well, one thing they said in this chapter, like, when we saw Hachinosu, like, in the chapter, was, you know, it seemed like there were other pirates also leaving there, and they were like, oh my god, Rox beat us to it. So I think there are even more factions that are going to pull up to God Valley than just what we saw here, and it's gonna be
we've only been noted of the biggest ones.
Yeah, like, they haven't, what we saw here was like a bunch of people that honestly we already knew were gonna be here. You know what I mean? Like, the only ones that we didn't know, the only big reveal that we didn't get was like Rox himself.
I don't know how many people have been looking at it, but behind Whitebeard in one of the panels, there's this guy like jumping who has like these 3 claws, which reminds me of the 3 claws that Blackbeard had before. Like
There's a
to,
guy.
like,
There was a guy that we met
so,
in the story that had that, I believe.
yeah, those cat guys in Syrup Village. But
No, I think there's an actual guy that like was a rocks pirate. Like, might have been another corpse or something. But, yeah, I mean,
yeah, I wonder if Blackbeard was inspired partly by that guy. If it was just like a weapon that Oda wanted to reuse again. I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder
I
if
just thought it was
Blackbeard
interesting.
had an encounter with rocks, and at what point probably before this? Like,
Well, I
isn't
mean,
this
it's
where
pretty
Rocks
clear that
dies?
he's like the successor, the not reincarnation, but like the will was passed
Yeah,
on to
yeah.
him from Rocks.
But do you think he
So
ever
the
met him?
fact that I don't think he necessarily met him because Blackbeard's like 40 now, and this happened
Right,
38 years ago, so he would have been 2.
right.
Even if he met him, he wouldn't remember him really.
Yeah, true that.
But like we said earlier with Moria, if he's on Hachinosu to get corpses, maybe that's why Blackbeard wanted his fruit in the first place, because he knew Rox's corpse was like there at Hachinosu.
Oh, interesting. You think Rocks is gonna be revived by Moria's fruit? Do you think Moria's gonna die? Do you think Moria's gone?
I don't know if Moria is gone, but I think he might work with like Blackbeard.
Okay.
Because I don't see any reason besides the fact that he killed Absalom that he wouldn't work with Blackbeard.
Yeah, true.
But I don't know. He is kind of loyal to his crew, I will say, so maybe he doesn't want to because of the Absalom thing, and that would also make sense, but we'll have to see. But we've gone off on a huge tangent about other arcs. This chapter, crazy. I love seeing Roger jump into action with the straw hat. We haven't actually seen him with the straw hat like much
the
before
first
this.
time. This is this is the second time, I guess, because we see him talk to
Like
Rayleigh,
when he meets
right?
Rayleigh, yeah.
So yeah, we get to see them all pull up. We get to see in the beginning of the chapter, we got to see silhouettes of the other God's Knights. I would think, right? Or are those just like regular celestial dragons? And are those kids that were under Mother Caramel's care, are those God's Knights, or are they just like dudes?
I think they're God's Knights. I think all the people doing the killing are the God's Knights. I don't think the celestial dragons themselves have like the skill to like actually do stuff like this. Like they just stand there and shoot guns, right? But these people are actually going out and hunting the rabbits.
It seems like there's a lot of them though. Like it's regular celestial dragons are there shooting, yeah, but those are like, I guess, the highlighted players. Speaking of highlighted players, I also wanted to really quickly bring up that there was like they said that there's 13 super rare slaves that
I'm curious about that, like what makes them so much better. I wonder if it's just like a nobility thing. It's like, hey, these were the 13 like royals in the royal family or whatever. Because I don't know if they're actually gonna go into it.
Or maybe
but I was
they're
curious
like a
about
specific
that also.
race, like maybe they're all the Buccaneers, and maybe Kuma's one
Maybe.
of the 13.
Maybe. But one of the other things that I wanted to mention here is it seems like Garling was basically saying like we have to protect the celestial dragons in the way where it implied to me that he wasn't a celestial dragon, which kind of makes sense with what we were saying about the orphans of Mother Caramel. If they're like if they are these people, then they wouldn't be celestial dragons. So that means the God Knights aren't necessarily celestial dragons. So like, what do you have to do to be a God's Knights? Like, how do you impress these scum people so much?
Yeah, true. Yeah, that I didn't even really notice. You're right. And in that case, is Shanks really a celestial dragon?
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking now. Also, like most people, me included, were like gung ho after figuring out Garling was there. Like Shanks is a celestial. Like it's so clear, but we never technically got confirmation. I think that the God's Knights are celestial dragons.
Right.
I'd have to go back and look at Garling's like.
To go one step
title
further with that, if that's the case, then why was Shanks able to get a meeting with the Gorosei if he's not a celestial dragon? And like, what kind of nobility do the God's Knights have? Like, do their kids automatically get like amnesty? But you know, I would think that because Shanks is like, you know, went with a pirate or like, you know, descended to the human world or whatever and decided to live as a human, that he would be like exiled by these people, similar to Doflamingo or the Don Quixote family, you know. But it seems like that's kind of not the case. Like he met up with the Gorosei.
Yeah, I don't know. Shanks has so many more mysteries, and he's not even in the chapter. It's crazy.
I know, that's
Like,
nuts. Speaking of mystery, so we've solved the mystery of what two of the devil fruits were, and we solved Big Mom, straight up, no
she just stole it from
hesitation.
some kids.
Just is like, gotcha, bitch. Like, give me that. And then Kuma, you know, had to shove it down his throat. I mean, that's realistic. Like, I would imagine like they had to, the devil fruits had to be a little bit hard to get. Kuma apparently knew how to use this fruit pretty immediately,
Yeah, he got
or
everybody
learned.
off the island.
Yeah, at least he learned pretty immediately. Um, got a bunch of people, like 500 people off the island, and assumedly himself got away from the Gorosei member, got away from Saturn.
That was so crazy. First of all, flashback within a flashback. This chapter I thought
Yeah,
was great,
yeah.
but I really want to know what happened. Like, besides all the stuff with rocks at God Valley now, I'm so curious about the conclusion to this because I don't necessarily think we're gonna get it here in
Right.
this flashback because I think they've already moved past it. But I don't know. We see in that panel too. We see the Conqueror's Hotkey emanating from the island, which we know Saturn has it. I wonder if there's something with Kuma there that has it. I don't
Well, in the
necessarily think
panel
he would
right
have it.
before it, it's like, hold it, Rocks, you're in my way, Roger. And that's assumedly
That's
like
true too.
Roger and Rocks talking to each
You're
other.
right. You're
So
right.
that could be Rocks and Roger clashing.
Yeah,
That's what I was
but
thinking
not splitting the
myself.
sky yet. All I'm gonna say.
True. Yeah. Yeah. You're right. Just
But I'm sure once we actually see them fight, we're gonna see it. To be honest.
true. Yeah. Also, you know, I think the theories of Garling potentially having given Whitebeard his scar are starting to look better now because Whitebeard, we see his chest. He doesn't have that scar here in when we
Yeah,
see his
and I mean
reveal.
they're both here to fight. Like I wholeheartedly agree with that now. Which is funny because I think at the time I don't even necessarily know if Oda knew he was referring to Garling. I think it was supposed to
No,
be about
no.
Roger at first, and he was like, "Wait, I can spin this," and that's what I love about Oda sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
Is he makes things that weren't foreshadowing foreshadowing.
One thing I also want to point out real quick, I just kind of want to see all the. I like seeing the rock fire. So we see Kaido obviously as a little kid. I like that this is probably gonna give Kaido a little bit more backstory, which is nice because you know everybody was complaining about backstory. For
Yeah,
Kaido
it
not
felt like we
being...
got robbed a little bit, but I figured, and most people did, that they were saving it because of the God Valley.
Right. But another thing that I thought was funny was so Gloriosa, when we first meet her, it's basically implied that she quit being a pirate and like or had to quit being a the Empress because she fell in love. Did she fall in love with Whitebeard as Stussy is doing? Is there a little love triangle going on here?
Or
Um
did she fall in love with Rocks himself?
yeah, oh yeah. Could be. um but also, you know, we see Stussy here clearly or is it Stussy or is it Miss Buckingham? I guess it's Miss
It's Miss
Buckingham
Buckingham's
Stussy, right?
Stussy,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. So yeah, confirmed
Also,
that she's definitely she's all over the Whitebeard, so understandably she's saying like, "Oh,
that is
that's
probably
my
actually Whitebeard's
husband," you
kid
know, that's Whitebeard. Is it Whitebeard's
slash
kid?
clone
Slash clone.
slash clone.
Speaking of clones, I want to talk about Jinny real quick.
I do too. So I've been thinking about that, and I really think, and I think we mentioned it last week. But I think Jinny or Bonnie is basically a clone of Jinny, and while she survived longer than I've thought so far, I do think we were right in saying that it's Bonnie's mother, or Bonnie could even be like prepubescent clone of Jinny.
That's what I think. I think she's a clone. I think Bonnie's a clone of Jinny now.
And I
And
think that's why, or one of the reasons why Vegapunk didn't want her to see the memories,
yeah,
is because he didn't want her to know she was a clone, and that's why he wasn't saying anything, is because Kuma didn't want him to tell her that.
for sure. Yeah, they can't just bring up the clone thing and not have somebody else in the arc like be a clone,
Yeah.
right? You know, I think what's really cool about this Egghead arc now for me is that like every character in the beginning that like we were like, oh my god, like they're cutting away to so many different things, like this doesn't seem relevant to like what's going on. Now it seems relevant, like all those, and that was something that happened on Egghead. But I mean, like, you know, the Hachinosu stuff, like obviously we're getting parallels to Hachinosu and more expounding upon like Blackbeard's character through rocks, seeing Kuma's backstory in general, like, and just being able to flesh out these little things in the story. Like I would assume that next chapter we're gonna still be in this flashback, and it's gonna be the last chapter of this flashback. And some kind of tragedy is gonna happen. Some kind of tragedy is gonna happen. I don't know like how far they're gonna go. Like they might go through Kuma's whole life. Like we might see I was thinking that we were gonna see Dragon on God Valley. I don't think that anymore.
That's actually something I wanted to bring up. Is I thought we were gonna see Kuma and Ivankov kind of stay together and, like you said, meet up with Dragon somewhere on God Valley. But Ivankov just kind of ditched both of them. I mean, not ditched, but like he went off on his own adventure. So like they actually end up meeting again later. So I'm interested in how that turns out. I wonder if Dragon meets them separately and then they're like, whoa, we know each other. Or if it's like they meet up again and then that's when Dragon meets them. So we'll have to see about that.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see. I think next chapter we're probably gonna see we'll see like how the freedom fighters were formed. Maybe like I want to see Kuma's later life, because assumedly like I think something's gonna happen to Jinny, and it's gonna be even more tragic for Kuma, and then they're gonna form the freedom fighters, and then they're gonna like go on to, you know, we know like a lot of Kuma's story from there, but we need to know what Bonnie's involvement is. We need to see like how, because what we're seeing in this flashback is Bonnie's recollection of Kuma's recollection, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like we have to touch on Bonnie before we cut back into Egghead.
Yeah, and I think that's why Jinny has so many death flags, like we said last week.
Unfortunate.
And just going back to the clone theory, and like you said with the freedom fight, it probably gets formed because of her death. I think that's the catalyst. And then I think Vegapunk might even be there and like promise Kuma, he's like, I swear I'll bring her back or something. And then that's how he gets her DNA, starts doing the clone stuff. And then Whitebeard's son, Weevil, is like the trial for it. And then once he has it perfective, Bonnie is like the first perfect clone.
Yeah, interesting. A lot to think about with this chapter. I mean, did you wanna say something else?
There's one more thing I wanted to touch up on with the Rock stuff, which I know we keep cutting back to, but we actually get to see Rox's flag, which I don't think we have seen before this. And
I thought we did see it.
I might be wrong then, but his flag shows us an indication of what he might be like. So just something to think about. I haven't looked too much into the design yet.
You think it's kind of vague. You think it's one thing people are saying is that he might have the Mero no Mi, the Aces fruit.
He looks like he has something with fire. It looks like there's some kind of swirl there also. Maybe the swirl has something to do with, I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder if he I'm sure, I would think that he has a devil fruit. And
I
also,
think he does too.
one thing that I also wanted to touch on, what Whitebeard said. He said that Moron Rox is bound to lose sight of our main goal. We've got to confirm it's here first. So what are they after? I don't think it's the dragon fruit, and I don't think it's I think Big Mom was after the dragon fruit. She's like, you're stupid, like that's the best one, obviously, out of all the fruits. But maybe they're after another fruit, or maybe they're after Shanks.
It might be bigger than a devil fruit, honestly, if they're bringing all this firepower here to get it and it got leaked. What if it's something as bad as like an ancient weapon? Like, what if they're going to take an ancient weapon?
One idea I like. Well, one idea I like is that it's the dark fruit that he's after, because if he's parallel to Blackbeard, you know, the fruits have a will of their own, and clearly maybe Rox wasn't the one that could gain the favor of the dark fruit. You know, it was kind of said that like the dark fruit was kind of testing Blackbeard to kill Thatch, and he was able to do it, so like he got it right. And maybe Rox is kind of a morally ambiguous character. Like we can kind of see he's sort of like Luffy, like just rushing in before his crew, right? So there are parallels to that, to Luffy, and I think that Rox is shaping up to be much more than just like the evil guy. Maybe he is after the dark fruit, but it escapes him and he dies here because he's morally ambiguous.
Yeah.
The will of D isn't strong with him.
And if he dies here, I'm curious to know how he dies, because I mean, maybe like Roger kills him or something, but I know if Roger is a parallel of Luffy slash vice versa, Luffy doesn't really kill people, right? He kind of just knocks them
Hmm.
out. So I don't really think that Roger kills people, at least not like super
I would
intentionally.
think that Roger's a
So
good
I
guy.
wonder if like
Everything we
Garling
know.
comes in and like finishes the job or something,
Hmm.
and like that's how he gains his notoriety. And then the God's Knights is like he was the one slated to kill Rocks or something. I don't
Hmm.
know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Garp was the one that's been said to be the hero of God Valley, but it's not
But
because
he
he
might
beat
just get the
Roger.
outward look. Yeah, he might just get the outward look of
But what
it.
do you think
But
the
the God's
story
Knights,
they
I think,
said
are supposed
was?
to be more secret.
What do you think the story they said was? Morgan's, we know now, is very
Oh,
old.
I mean, I think for the news they said it that Garp did it, but I think
That Garp
like
beat.
within the Celestial Dragons and within the Gorosei, they know it was like Garling, but they wanted to keep that a secret because they
Interesting.
want the God Knights to be a secret.
True. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I guess Dragon was really the only one. The Revolutionary Army is really the only ones that had inside information about the Gods Knights. But
Yeah,
except
and
for I guess all the people here now.
well, most of them die, so.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then some of the other ones, like if we know Dragon has information about this, we literally see his two commanders, Kuma and Ivankov,
Hmm.
here,
You
and
think
that's why they know about. So maybe this is how he found out
you
about
think
them.
this is where Shiki goes to Impel Down?
No, because he roams the seas and he fights Rogers after this. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, true, true, true.
So
Okay, yeah, you're
he,
right. You're
because
right.
in Chapter 0, the reason he's in Impel Down is because he goes to Marineford and is like, ah, Rocks or Roger wouldn't really get captured. You guys are liars. Let me see him. Let me fight. And then he fights both
I
Garp and
see. I see.
Sengoku
Okay,
in a
okay.
marine base like
I
an
gotta
idiot.
I gotta
So.
reread chapter 0 apparently. But I think the best part about this chapter in
Oh,
the
it's
end.
my favorite. My favorite part. No break next
No
week.
break next week, baby. So this is a goated one. We had a lot to say about this chapter, but we gotta cut it off here. I'm sure there'll be much more to talk about next week. Man, I'm excited.
I'm excited too. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and as usual, don't forget, fight us in the comments.
Catch y'all on the next one.
Peace.
Peace.